All right. So some of the basic things that you'll need to know if you're doing any kind of text analytics is, of course, learning how to read a text file. So just one note, I am using Jupyter Lab, which is a lot like Jupyter Notebooks. And I'm going to place a text file inside the library or the folder, excuse me, that I'm actually working through. So if I hit this little file browser window, you can see this reading text file option is the Python scripting screen you see on the right. But also I have a text data file here called movie quotes. And I'm going to double click on it. And what's really great about Jupyter Lab is that it kind of shows us the data that's inside this particular text file. And these are just basic movie quotes. There are 11 of them, as you can tell, and they're separated by different lines. All right. So what we want to do is be able to read this file and then be able to get this into some different formats. So let's start talking about some of the basic things that we need to know as far as being able to open a file. So let's start with just opening a file and set to a variable. Okay, and so we're going to do that by saying that this is going to be my text, and we're going to use Python's open command. And what we want to do here is put the file name. So we're going to put movies, it's movie quotes.txt, and that is going to be a file that we are going to read only. We'll talk about other types of notation here as far as Python's open command and whatnot, but we'll know that just for reading, we're just going to use the letter R in quotes, and that just tells Python that we're going to read this file. So next, let me put some more notes here. What we want to do is after we read it, we also now we want and set it to a variable. We now actually want to read the content. So this is going to be the next step in our process. So we're going to say that we're going to have some text data, and it's going to be equal to my text, and we're going to go ahead and read it. So now we're going to basically start with, we're going to call the opened file my text, and then we're going to read my text, and we're going to call that text data. And the next thing that we want to know, and this is kind of a wasted step because we're going to show you how to get around this later, but when we actually open something, we have to close it later. So we want to close the connection to the file, and that just helps us out with memory and other back-end issues with Python. And so we're just going to put a close command, mytext.close. So this is actually closing the file that we open up here. And by the way, let me go ahead and show my line number. So on line 2, we're opening the file. Line 5, we're reading the content. And line 8, we're going to close the file, which then let's go ahead and display the content, and we're going to do that simply by using the print command, and we're going to print text data. And let's kind of see what that ends up. Oh, well, if you spelled it correctly, hey, that would work. So let's go ahead and display that. We can see this is the content of the movie quotes that we've seen. So this isn't much different than what we've seen here from the file, but now we actually have it in Python, so that way we can actually work with this text data. So let's kind of show a couple other ways of being able to open this file. So we can use what's called a with statement. So what we say is, with this file, do these couple of things. So with open, and we're going to go ahead and put our movie quotes.txt file. We're going to go ahead and just read it. And this time we're going to say, with this file open, we're going to give it a pseudonym. We're going to say, just for being creative here, we're going to say, let's open this and we'll call it a file. So file is going to be our alias name that we're going to use for this. So now we're going to say, let's go ahead and take the text data variable that we had earlier, and we're going to assign it to file, and we're going to read all the contents. So this is another way of being able to read the contents of a file. What's really great about using the with command is based on the scope. Once you get out of, what did I do there? Once I get out of the with command, I don't have to close the file anymore, because Python already knows that I am going to close that file. So it'll do that for us automatically. So from there, we're going to go ahead and print our text data, and bam, there we go. We have our movie quote. So it's the same thing up here, but this time we're using that with command. Now let's go ahead and make a couple of changes here. So I'm going to take this, copy it. I'm going to add another line here, and let's go ahead and use our movie quotes. But this time what I want to do is, instead of, and this is what happens with text data, right? We want to start looking at every line by line inside a file. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to create a variable called lines, and we're going to take the entire file and we're going to use the read lines command. And what this does, it says, hey, go look at the file line by line, and let's go ahead and put it in a structure called lines. In fact, if we came here and we just printed lines, you can see here we have a small little basic list, right? You can know it's a list because of all these brackets here of all the little pieces of lines, right? So that helps us out, but let's try something else here. So for every line in lines, let's go ahead and print the line, right? So there we go. Now we can see all of them, and you'll notice that there's a line return that actually gets introduced as, you know, another component, and which is why we have the gap between each one. So what actually Python's doing is prints the line, then it sees the line return. So that's why we have actually the double space here. We're not going to worry about that for us too much. But what is the benefit of that? All right. So what we can do is I'm going to go ahead and copy this and paste it down below. And I'm going to just, for our sake, is I'm just go ahead and clear all the outputs, and I'm more going to work on this bottom copy here. So what does that allow us to do? Well, imagine if we want to do some processing on each of those lines. So we're going to do some sentences, and we're going to create an open, not a dictionary, but a list. And so for every line in lines, right, we're going to take sentences and we're going to append it. We're going to append it to the line, but I want to do a little bit of text processing. And this is one of the few things that what we're going to do. We're going to actually say line is going to equal to the line that is now made lowercase, right? So this lowercase option basically will take all the data that is in the text and remove all the capital letters and replace them with lowercase letters. All right. So I did a little bit of processing, which this little for loop allowed me to do. And then I'm able to store it inside my sentences structure. And then for our purposes, let's go ahead and print sentences so we can kind of see what that looks like. And now you can see that everything here is actually now lowercase. So that allows us to do that, but also it could allow us to get rid of these other variables here, which is like the hidden or the non-printable character a \n. So what we could also do is line equals line dot replace. We're going to replace all the \n's with nothing, right? And then we rerun it, and now we can see that all those \n's are gone. All right, so this is a great little tool to be able to use the open command with text files, extract that text data, start to process everything line by line. And this actually gets you into a position where obviously I'm seeing some of these other backslash scenarios here where actually what's happening is those backslashes are preventing that apostrophe from going away. But we now can see how this can be an advantage for us, especially if we're going to be starting to do some early text analytics. So I hope that's helpful, and we'll see you next time.